If you are interested in investing in Poland's energy transition, and especially in offshore wind farms in Poland, then do watch this episode of News from Poland Business and Law. In it, Adriana Ogonowska, attorney at law who advises on environmental protection issues associated with biodiversity and protection of the marine environment, will tell us about the legal aspects of such investments. We will follow this with a brief summary of the current situation in the Polish economy. Our program is designed for foreigners acting as board members in Polish companies, foreign investors in Poland and their foreign advisors.
Hi. In February 2021, the Polish Council of Ministers adopted a resolution called Poland's Energy Policy until 2040, describing the government's long-term strategy for the energy sector. The policy states that the development of offshore wind energy is one of the strategic projects for the Polish energy sector. More than 11 gigawatts of offshore wind capacity projects is expected to be awarded by 2040. Achieving these goals should help with transitioning to a zero-emission system founded on innovation, sustainable economic growth, increased efficiency and competition. Renewables majors such as Equinor or Ørsted have submitted applications for decision on environmental conditions for offshore wind projects located in the Polish part of the Baltic Sea. Importantly, some of them have already obtained such decisions. Firms seeking to invest in Poland's energy transition will have to navigate a procedural minefield when applying for various permits and battling environmental protection authorities. Therefore, in this episode, I would like to focus on some environmental procedures and highlight the key points of the decision-making process, which are important for potential investors. Concerns regarding the construction and operation-related impacts on marine species, protected areas, biotopes and habitats are reviewed as a part of the complex and lengthy approval process for offshore wind farms. Many questions regarding the environmental impacts of offshore activities are still unanswered. Thus, it is important that every project receives proper environmental research and specific conclusions. The major environmental concerns associated with such developments can, however, be identified, and they include impacts on wildlife or people, increased noise levels, risk of collisions, changes to benthic and pelagic habitats, alteration to food chains, pollution from increased vessel traffic, and releases of contaminants from seabed sediments. Therefore, the basic question is how should offshore wind farms be built so as to comply with the principles of Polish environmental law? For investment projects that are categorized as likely to have a significant impact on the environment, the Regional Director for Environmental Protection carries out an environmental impact assessment. This means in practice the need for a comprehensive environmental impact review preceded by extensive environmental research, both on land and at sea. The result of the EIE procedure is the issuance of a decision on environmental conditions, which is necessary for obtaining other permits, enabling the implementation of an offshore wind farm. The authority conducting a procedure considers the specific of a project, its scale and type, and the extent to which it may affect individual aspects of the environment. Incomplete or late submission of documents or an incomplete inventory of wildlife, insufficient characteristics of the project and other shortcomings and delays may delay the process. A crucial element of the process is the preparation of the application for an environmental decision with all the required attachment, as well as the preparation of an environmental impact review. This will significantly affect whether, how and when the planned investment may be implemented. The environmental impact review should contain information about the planned project, a description of the environment and the project's location both on land and at sea, and an analysis of the relation between elements of the environment and the planned project. The review must determine the impact of the planned project on individual elements of environment, including people, while considering the location and the design, as well as the technological, technical, and organizational solutions adopted by the investor. A complex and extensive document like a review for a wind farm requires a broad team of specialists. In the environmental impact assessment, the authority determines, analyzes, and evaluates the project's direct and indirect impacts on, among others, the environment and population, which includes human health and living conditions, material goods, monuments, the landscape, including cultural landscape, and the interactions between them. Based on this, and following reviews and comments from other authorities, together with opinions from public consultations, the Regional Director of Environmental Protection then issues an administrative decision providing the environmental conditions. The environmental decision determines how the project may be carried out so as to minimize its environmental impact. The environmental decision will also significantly affect the overall structure of the project, as well as its details. In its decision, the authority may go as far as deciding the color scheme of offshore assets. The environmental decision is often a source of additional obligations for the applicant, which may be relevant at various stages of the project, including hydrological research, constant monitoring of wildlife and the seabed, and inspections of bottom sediments. This is by no means an exhaustive list, but it indicates the scale and variety of obligations imposed on investors. Decisions on environmental conditions issued for offshore wind farms are immediately enforceable. On the other hand, the Regional Director for Environmental Protection should issue a decision within 90 days from submission of an application. This period must be viewed as very short and often unrealistic. Investors may think they can gain time by starting the environmental procedure as soon as possible, once the parameters of a project and approximate designs have been roughly defined, and then clarify the project during the procedure. But on the contrary, it is essential that the authority receives a mature concept with well-thought-out technical and technological solutions that will not change after the environmental decision has been issued. The authority issues an environmental decision based on the specific parameters of the project. If an earlier underestimation or incorrect assumption or the investor's haste or modifications to the environmental decision are then shown in the application for a building permit, the authority may decide that a new environmental impact review is required, despite the earlier issued environmental decision. New constructions built in the Polish sector will have to meet several environmental requirements. Potential investors must take into account the possibility of additional and costly obligations. Consequently, the construction of offshore wind farms should only be undertaken by ambitious entities with the appropriate human and financial resources, as well as experience in implementing and operating such projects that guarantee respect for the marine environment.
Since February of this year, the Polish government's finances have been bearing additional expenditures associated with assistance to refugees from the war in Ukraine. Despite this, public finances are currently in a good state. The government's budget is showing a surplus, as well as significant cash reserves, which constitute a safety buffer in the event of an economic slowdown. However, the market is showing a noticeable drop in investments, caused by investors' fears over high inflation, making it more difficult to forecast the costs of investment projects and their future revenues, a significant rise in interest rates, therefore the costs of financing investments, and a fall in consumer spending. In the context, the war across the border in Ukraine is no longer seen as a significant risk factor. In the longer term, these fears should be outweighed by Poland's advantages, such as the trend for nearshoring, lower labor costs than in Western Europe, and Poland's central location in Europe, which facilitates logistics and lowers transport costs. This is of considerable importance in view of the high costs of container freight from Asia, which are now running at 150% more than in the days preceding COVID-19 pandemic. That's all in this episode. Thank you for watching us. See you next time.